Girls night out. When the work is done, the girls go out to play. Girls night out. Put on your dancing shoes. We'll chase the blues away. So if you see the girls out having fun, there's no doubt it's a girls night out.
Cash, money can't buy that time of my life, cash. And all you gave us, cash, the sweet memories that we saved up to keep made us so much richer, Mr. Cash.
I'm joined by the one and only Gina Jeffries. How you going, Gina?
Hey, Jason, good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I mean, I'm as good as I can be during this craziness at the moment. It's a bit different, isn't it?
Honestly, if you said 3 months ago the world's going to be brought to its knees by some disease and we'll all have to stay home, you would have gone, no way. That can't. You feel like you're living in a movie, but it's going slow.
I know. It is exactly like that. Hey, like I don't know how many people, like my granddad, he's 92 this year, and he said to me the other day, he said, you never once thought you'd see this in your life, you know?
Oh, that's great.
It's ridiculous. It's hard, you know. It's hard to believe it's happening. And
Oh yeah, I said to my son the other day, I said, Jackie, I feel like I'm in a coma, and when I wake up, I'm going to say I had the craziest dream. And he said, Mum, do you know how you can tell that you're not in a dream? If you can read, you're not dreaming. So I said, okay, show me something so I'm not dreaming.
yeah, I know, it's terrible, isn't it? It's really bad. But
you know,
sorry,
we're doing the best we can.
Yeah, that's all we can do. That's
Yeah.
all we can do, you know. And same with everyone at home and watching now. It's just, you know, it's a terrible time, but we're all going to get through it. There's, as I say to a lot of other people, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. There's a positive and negative to everything, and the negative is that this is happening. But on the positive side, I'm isolating out west at the moment, and the bloody rain has been falling, and we've had that much rain. It's great. Everything's greening up. I can't wait to actually leave the house and go for a drive and actually have a look at the paddocks and see how green it is out there, you know. So that's a positive, isn't it?
There you go. Yeah, that's awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah.
We'd only just started touring towards the end of last year, and I was kind of shocked by how dry it was out in the country areas. You know, we've sort of forgotten, because when we were touring all the time, I took 12 years off to raise our son, who's now 17, but I took his whole school life off pretty much. And when you're out on the road touring all the time, you get to see, you know, where the fires have been and where the floods and the droughts, and you're sort of more in touch with how the country areas are doing. But, you know, I'd been home, and I remember being quite shocked at how dry it was out around Inverell and places like that. Oh, yeah. And then recently, you know, when we were allowed to fly, we did a gig up in Toowoomba and flew into Toowoomba, my hometown, and it was so green. It was the first time I'd seen green in ages, and it was just something about it makes you feel good.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And you see a lot on the road, don't you? Like if you're traveling everywhere touring and doing certain stuff to promote shows, and you do see a lot of the country. It's great in a way, and it's also heartbreaking as well, as you said, you know.
Well, you would have thought after the fires, you know, you would have thought, well, we've hit the bottom of what can possibly happen to this country, and we didn't.
No, that's for sure. That's for sure. Shocking. Gina, so how are you guys going through isolation? You're on the coast and in isolation at the moment, and you got any tips for people at home? Like, how are you guys getting through it?
Yeah. Well, we do Zoom drinks with our best friends. So, you know, we set up, we call them Zoomies, and, you know, you get your cheese and wine platter, and you know, we do cheers, and so we're staying connected with our close friends that way, which has been pretty fantastic. And we're lucky because Jackie, our son, he's 17, so he's just got his wings, you know, he just got his P's, and he was ready to, you know, hit the world and drive around, and then they got anyway. But he's a musician and a wanting to be a record producer as well, and he's got a little recording studio downstairs where we live. So he's down there creating music, and because I'm still songwriting a lot and mentoring artists who are getting ready to record with Rod. My husband is Rod McCormack, who's a producer.
Yeah.
So, and so I'm still songwriting a lot, but like this, it's the best. So now you can write songs with someone from anywhere in the world, and I've been loving that, loving still being able to be creative and still, you know, use the time. I think the thing is we need to use the time to clean. Like when it first happened, my house was like spotless. Now it's kind of not as spotless, but I've gone around and, done the clean out that you've been wanting to do. You'd never have time. I've been cooking better than I've ever cooked because I'm normally in such a hurry, So the other night, on Saturday night, I said to the boys, because we've only got Rod and Jackie at home, so it's just the three of us, and I said, turn on some Italian music. I've cooked, I did this Italian seafood pasta dish, and I made garlic bread, and we had red wine, and we played Italian music, and I lit a candle, and I might have danced a little bit and tried to talk in an Italian accent, which sounds really like Indian accent because I can't do accents. But, we're finding our own fun, and I'm enjoying cooking, and I actually really, really love not hurrying, because my life prior to this, I just used to have this really overwhelming feeling all the time of like, I haven't taken a deep breath in ages, because we're just going from one thing to the next. And I love that COVID has made us stop. It's made you not be in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry. I can go for a walk now and be gone for 2 hours if I want. It doesn't matter. I love that, not rushing. And I think that there's a lot to learn from it. We're certainly learning that all that matters is food and wine, but food and shelter. It doesn't matter what you wear. I haven't worn shoes, other than when I go for a walk. I've been in slippers or bare feet. You don't need all the posh shoes. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. It doesn't matter what you're driving. It doesn't matter really where you live if you've got shelter. What matters is our connections with each other. Your family and your friendships, and your health, and really nothing else matters. And I love that. It's really put stuff into perspective for me. I'm sort of not feeling like going out buying lots of stuff, and I'm trying to support the local community and still buy local food and stuff. But outside of that, you realise how kind of little you can survive on, and it's made us get back to basics. And I really love that. And I'm just trying to look. I write a gratitude journal every day. Asking earlier, this is a long answer to your question. But I just think it's a really healthy thing to do every afternoon or evening, to write down at least 3 things that you're grateful for, because it would be very easy to slide into, sleep in and don't be motivated because we don't have a structure anymore, and to just do nothing. And I think if you've got to look for the good and look for the things that are making you happy, and the more you look for that, the more you'll see stuff that makes you happy. And I'm trying really hard to stay motivated and creative and grateful and just try and enjoy it and remember what it's like when we get so busy.
Yeah.
Time to sit down, So I'm kind of trying to embrace it.
Yeah, good on you. That's great. That's awesome. Thank you. No, that's fantastic. What are you looking forward to the most when you come out of isolation, Gina?
Hugs.
Yep.
Hugs. I'm a hugger, and this is one of my other girlfriends is a real hugger as well. I hug. I will hug. If I just met you, I'll hug you. It's like that's my thing. I'm a really physical human, and I'm really, really missing not being able to hug. So Jackie and Rod are getting hugged so much at our house, but I can't wait to hug my parents and my brother and my best friends and all of that. So hugs, and the typical answer is going to be to get back out and do gigs and stuff. And yeah, I'm really missing that, and I'm really grateful. But I think the other thing it's taught us as artists is, we used to performing and go out and sing, and the addiction of being on stage was the applause and the I love that show, or the standing ovation or whatever it might be. That was kind of such a part of the appeal of being an artist, is that instant gratification that you get from your audience and your vibe. And now we don't get that. So even if you do a song live, you don't get the applause. And I think as an artist, it's made you want to make music for music's sake and for no other reason, just sing a song that makes you feel good. And it doesn't really matter. You haven't got to be thinking, what does this audience want to hear? How can I relate to, this particular town, or I don't know, it's just music for music's sake. And that, I think that's been a really good thing for us as artists to, not be constantly getting that craving the applause.
Yeah, no, that's right. Absolutely. It's and I think one thing with it all, it's made us realize just what we do and how much we love it as well, because it is very, very easy, and you don't think that you do, but it is very, very easy to sort of get into the rhythm of it's not like it's not taking it for granted, but getting used to what you do.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it is taken for granted. You do get to a point. And you know what? I got to experience this because I took 12 years off to raise our son. And I got to realise that I used to take it all for granted. I used to think, oh, yeah, there'll be a big crowd and, we'll travel business class and there'll be, free wine backstage and there'll be all these things you kind of get used to. And then I took that time off and I went, actually, I was pretty lucky. And now when I mentor people, I will constantly say to them, when they're doing something, really special, which we kind of don't get to do right now in COVID, but, if you got to open for a big act or, when we sang on the stage at the awards this year at Tamworth with the Golden Guitars, and I said to Max Jackson, who I've been mentoring for about 10 years, I said to her, this is not normal. Today's not normal, and we need to really take this for granted because there's so many people who would love to be on this stage right now, and you can't get used to this. It's like this is really special to be a part of this. And I think that me having that 12 years off made me recognise how lucky I was to do all those, tour with Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson and those things where when you're young, you kind of go, oh, yeah, this is my new normal. This is what my life is. And, actually it's not. It's special and we need to not take things for granted.
Wow, yes, so that's right. So when did you toured with Johnny Cash?
Yeah, so that's I've got a new album out called Beautiful Tangle, and the first single off that was a song called Cash that I don't know what took us so long to write it because I toured with him in 1994, the same year Girls Night Out came out, and I got to open for him. And so what happened was I already had a record deal, and it looked like things were going good. I was on Hey Hey Saturday and the midday show. I don't know if you remember back then in the early 90s there was a lot of live music on live TV. And there was some opportunities to get out into people's lounge rooms. And so I was doing that, and it would look like things were really successful. But, in fact, I was only singing in a wine bar on every Thursday night for 4 hours to, like, 3 or 4 drunk people who weren't listening. And that was the sum total of what I was literally doing live. It was just pretty bad. And then my manager rang the next day, after one of those wine bar gigs, and said that you've just been asked to open for Johnny Cash. And I was like, oh, really? And so I literally went from singing to 4 people a night to singing to 15,000 people a night, literally just like that. And then his audience just adopted me, and my album went platinum.
Wow.
Just like that. Like it was just incredible. And I don't know, I was just... And I'm so grateful, and that's where a lot of this part of me that's got massive gratitude is, if I hadn't had that opportunity, I wouldn't have met his audience, and his audience wouldn't have adopted me. And I was this young, I was 23 or 24, I think, and green as all get out, just sort of only just came down to Sydney from Toowoomba in Queensland, and I knew nothing about, I still don't, but I knew nothing about the industry. I didn't know anybody really, and all of a sudden I had this audience who started coming to my shows because they saw me with Johnny Cash.
Wow, that's incredible. And it all started, like, how long before you won Star Maker? So you won Star Maker in 91, is that correct?
Yeah. So
you were performing before you won Star Maker, I take it?
Yeah. I'd been playing guitar and singing in restaurants from when I was 12. And then I joined a band when I was 15, and I was in that band for 7 years. So I had been on the stage a lot, but a really small stage, in my hometown, like little tiny things, we used to play at things like barn dances, and we do a Pride of Erin and a Gypsy Tap and those old-time dancing. We'd be the band in the corner in a country hall singing, Mary Lou and Jambalaya and all those really, really, really old songs that people used to dance to in dance halls. So I had some experience on stage, but not really,
That's incredible. That's bloody amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that. I'm 26, so I was born in 1994, and I knew Girls Night Out.
Yeah. Cool.
It's a massive country hit, and plus it crossed over as well. Plus you had numerous other songs, and you're amazing. You've had an incredible career, and it's incredible, and it's great to have you on here now and have a chat about it. It's great. So so for you yourself now, to go out and about and tour all these years later, and as you said, you've been on the road now, or you were on the road for about 5 or 6 months before all this hit. And did you lose a lot of shows from this?
Oh yeah. 100% of shows.
Terrible.
Band, and this year we were doing 12 months. We just put Jackie, our son, in the band, and he was playing banjo, mandolin, and guitar. And he's just left school, so it was going to be his apprenticeship, welcome into the music world. And he'd been on the road with us, full time since his first full gig was at the Tamworth Country Music Festival, but he had done a few shows leading into that. Then he became a full-time member of the band from that point on, and he was nailing it. It was because I was putting him up on social media and stuff, and I'd be standing on the side of the stage, and Rod would go out and open the show because he's got a new album out too, and he'd do this beautiful bluegrass set with James Gillard, who's an awesome bass player, and then Max Jackson, who I was talking about earlier, she has a new album out too. She's one of my songwriting partners and someone who I've mentored for 10 years, and brilliant new singer-songwriter. She's like an Australian Casey Musgraves, kind of really quirky and awesome. She would go out, and then Jackie and I would come out in the second half, and so the band all just walk out, and then I would walk out and start singing. And it got to the point where the audience would yell out, "Jackie!" They were starting to get to know him and expecting him, waiting to see him on the stage, and he was loving it and playing really well. And he was really on a roll, and he was just about to start making money because we weren't paying him because he was paying off a car.
Right, yeah.
So he had just made his last payment on the car that we, it was one of our cars that we said we'll go you dollar for dollar when you get a car. So we worked out what half the value of the car was, and he just paid his last gig. He owned the car, and then there was no more gigs. So he got to make money, but that was devastating, and it was devastating too because it's devastating for everybody. And look, I'm not complaining. I feel really lucky and blessed, but because I had taken 12 years off, we were just getting on a roll. We were starting to, because when we first went out, we weren't filling rooms up, and it was hard. I didn't know how to let people know we're in town because when I used to tour, I used to do radio and television and the newspaper and, all those things. That was how the town would know we were coming, whereas now it's all on social media, which I'm learning, but I'm not very good at. So I kind of didn't really know how you promote now and all that sort of stuff. And we were getting the hang of it, and we were just starting to do sold-out shows, like towards the end before the touring finished. So it took a while to amp up, and, the show was really coming together, and we were on a real roll. We were literally, it was just so fun. We'd all kind of found our place, and the harmonies were all beautiful, and it started, and then it came to an end. And look, I feel particularly, bad for, my band and all the musicians, because I'll be okay. I'm married to Rod, who is a record producer, and he's still working, and I just feel so bad for all the musicians out there who live from gig to gig and haven't got anything now. And it makes me want to cry. It's like, because they're hardworking people and it's all they've ever known, and they're the top of the game. They're brilliantly talented professionals who it's hit our industry, I think, the hardest, because how long will it be before people will be game to go out to a big festival, in a big crowd? Hopefully, we'll find a vaccine and it'll all be fine, and this will all be behind us soon. But I think the thing that's going to take the hardest hit is the music industry and any entertainment thing and eating out and where you're with a crowd is going. School's going to go back sooner and shops will probably go back sooner, but we all depend on a crowd of people coming. So I feel so bad for the musicians and the crew and people who live gig to gig. It's awful.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely. I think I've got to ask you. Like, I know you were saying you took a 12-year spell from music, and come back. You've won 5 golden guitars. You've had a phenomenal run, incredible. You must pinch yourself, like, to come back now and still be able to tour in general, because there's a lot of artists out there that have taken breaks that can't even tour anymore. And you guys literally went out with a national tour. You were halfway through your tour, and you started to sell out shows halfway through the tour. People started to go, Gina Jeffries is back. She's back on the road. Let's go out and see some shows. It must be surreal to think all these years ago, like 91 Star Maker, and before that, working up to that, to be still actually going in the industry, and especially with a 12-year hiatus in the middle.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot during that time, that, to take that big break and then come back. And I was super grateful that people remembered me and that people liked the new album and you know, because I didn't know. It's scary. Like any job, I think if anybody took that much time away from what they do, going back into the workforce is scary on so many levels. And for me,
oh yeah,
and so much had changed in that time. You know, people stopped going out to concerts during that time, you know, pretty much to what I was used to. I was used to, you know, we were selling out every night wherever we went, and people were still going out, you know, a lot. And this is prior to COVID, you know. It was such a change, you know, going out, say, this time last year with social media. You know, that wasn't around 12 years ago. Everything had changed. You know, there were so many more acts out trying to tour, I guess, and there's so much more for people, but people sort of weren't going out as much as they used to. Generally, I think, you know, there was more in that 12 years. There were lots of other things people could do. I think the part of it was, you know, all the cooking shows and the home renovating shows, and people would stay home and have a dinner party. That's what I was doing as well. Or they'd renovate their house. Or there was, you know, with Netflix and Foxtel and all this other entertainment that we can find, which is awesome now that we're all at home. We know how to.
Yeah.
That sort of was a bit of a clash with that. But look, I was super grateful, like you say, you know, to take 12 years off and then go out on the road and people were coming to the shows and buying the album. I was really so excited. You know, the album came out and went number one the day it came out. The Cash, that's the first single, and I just cried. Actually, I cried because I was just, you know, I kind of held my breath a little bit. You know, will this work or not? But ultimately, you know, we'd made a decision that we wanted to make music that I loved and that really kind of reflected what's happened in my life in that 12 years, and they're all song stories from that period, and I had to just go, well, this is where I'm at and this is what I like, and it'll either work or it won't, you know, and kind of let that go. And it's much easier than somebody starting from scratch, you know, trying to figure out who you are and where you fit. So that's harder in this environment, I think.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Look, Gina, at the end of every interview, I just do or end of every chat, I should say, I do a little thing called Curious Questions that I ask for people at home. And the first question I'd like to ask is, who is your biggest inspiration so far, either in your life, in your career, or just in general?
Oh, my biggest inspiration is my dad. My dad used to always do, he calls it psychological reciprocity, where he would try and plant ideas in my brain, and he taught me how to do manifestation and to visualize and look for positive stuff. And I didn't really realize when I was a kid that he was like a new age philosopher of sorts, but he was this burly builder, and he didn't really realize what he was doing with me, but he was teaching me to expect good stuff to happen, and to be a good person and to work hard, but also to, you know, there's no reason your dreams can't come true, and you just have to visualize it and work hard. And he taught me all that kind of stuff, which I'm so grateful for. So, and my mum as well did a lot of that too. You know, I had amazing parents who just really supported me and still do. You know, now that I'm 52, they still are beautiful and a big part of our life. Much as we can't really visit them at the moment, but yeah, dad certainly is a massive inspiration for me.
Oh, that's great. And what would you say your biggest highlight thus far in your career would be, Gina? I mean, you've had that many. I can imagine how many things you've done, but
definitely touring with Johnny Cash.
It's huge.
That was hard to top. I mean, there's been things like singing at the Grand Ole Opry, and you know, we've performed in East Timor for the troops. You know, with John Farnham and Kylie Minogue, and there's all those kind of things that happen that, like you say, you shouldn't take for granted. But yeah, if I had to count one, it's the Johnny Cash thing, because that was a turning point. That was where, if I hadn't have had that opportunity, I wouldn't have met his audience, basically. So, Johnny.
Yeah, great. Awesome. For people at home, Gina, who would be one of the most interesting celebrities you've ever met, and why were they interesting? What made them interesting, do you think?
Oh, an interesting celebrity that I've met. Johnny Cash again. But you know what? Chris Christopherson was pretty amazing. We met him during the Johnny Cash tour, and I was on stage singing a song. You know, and it was brand new. The audience didn't know me at all. It was off my new album, and we were standing there singing, and then the audience went nuts, like screaming, and I'm thinking, oh, gee, they like this song. I didn't know what's going on. And Chris Christopherson walked out behind us and joined in and played harmonica and stayed and played along with us, and that was. Wow. And we hadn't met him yet, and then we met him when we came off the stage, And you know, we got to talk to him, and he was fascinating, you know, telling us stories, and he was, you know, smoking pot backstage. And even though the Johnny Cash tour was a dry tour, that you weren't allowed to have alcohol or drugs or anything, but he's backstage, you know, breaking all the rules, as you probably would expect from his life. And, you know, telling us stories like, you know, he was riding with Janis Joplin one night, and he fell asleep, you know, for whatever reason, woke up the next day, she'd written Mercedes-Benz, I think it was, and he missed out on, you know, being a co-writer on that. You know, that's pretty interesting, meeting someone.
Wow.
But, you know, on home soil, Casey Chambers is one of the most beautiful humans I've ever met. You know, a really interesting, kind, beautiful person. We've got some interesting celebs here in Australia. Lee Kernaghan's a great human.
Yep.
Troy Cassar-Daley is probably one of the nicest people I've ever met, and so down to earth and so lovely. And so there's a whole. I think Australian celebrities are nice. They're really kind and nice and interesting, whereas the ones we've met in America are different.
Yeah. No, look, Gina, thank you so much for sharing and having a chat with us here. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jason. It was fun.
It's a pleasure to have you on, and thanks again. We really appreciate it, and all the best when all this opens back up and you get back out on tour. All the best with it all. And when I'm on the coast, I'd love to come and catch up with you all and do a bit of riding or something.
Yeah, let's write a song when this is all over.
Let's do it. Thanks, Gina. Thank you very much.